it's something I do on my own time. So I've been asked by many people if I want to teach yoga, but the process of teaching, which I try to do, it takes away from what it is that I get out of yoga, which is the very deep internal, exercises and meditation. And art too, it comes from something inside. It is driven, and it's like weighing on me if I don't get it out. So in terms of what motivates me, it is really, I have to do art. It's like I'm compelled to do art.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Real Estate, Wine, and More podcast. I'm your host, Howard Fletcher. What do you get when you combine a Norwegian swimmer, a visionary artist, a yoga prodigy, and a psychologist? It sounds like a great joke, but if not, let's find out.
Why don't I go downtown for a bucket of neck bone, mac and cheese and a side of greens. I wanna go downtown for a bucket of neck bones. They're right next door to the Tasty Free.
My guest today is Marat Essex. She's a multicultural international artist who was born in Norway, and now, to use her words, she lives in the graceful rolling hills of Virginia. I first met Marat at a fundraising event in 2011. She had graciously donated a painting of hers to be auctioned at a benefit for a charity that I used to be on the board of. And it was an expressionist image of a couple in a romantic embrace. The painting was colorful, it was well composed, but what I found so arresting was its intensity. It was as if energy was coming off of the canvas. I knew then that Marat was a special artist, and after getting to meet her and know her, she's really a special person. And she was kind enough to take a little time out of her busy schedule to come and talk to me about how she developed her craft in Europe and she honed it in the States, and some of the challenges of being an artist here in the States, really worldwide, her yoga, what motivates her, and we even spent a little time on some psychology. So with no further ado, here's my conversation with artist extraordinaire, Marat Essex. Enjoy. So how long have you always been drawing and artistic all your life?
I think I was born with a pencil in my hand because that is really my main mean of communicating and engaging with people was through creation and drawing and color. And
is your family any influence in that?
My mom, she was an amazing artist, drawer. Yeah. So I was very inspired by her, and then Edvard Munch, you know. Uh-huh. So that started it all off, but then later on, it just took on. Like, I don't really need the inspiration externally as much. Like a good conversation with a friend, a connection, a good hike, that can motivate me more because it brings something into me that I can then produce.
When I first saw your artwork, it reminded me of Marc Chagall a little bit because you have a lot of people who are floating, so to speak, or they're either in a swirl or there's a lot of motion that I see, but it's ethereal motion. It's not like people running or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about that. Is that something you evolved into, a style you evolved into, or did you always just see things that way or draw?
I didn't always see things the way I do now. Mm-hmm. I think I started off trying to be more perfect in terms of how I express my art, where I would do a horse or a face, and I would try to make it look like a horse and a face, and I was very self-critical, I think. Mm-hmm. And I got good at it, but it didn't bring me the relief or that wave of energy that my art does now. And so I decided to not be hard on myself and then be okay with everyone not liking my art. And I came to that point where, okay, I'm going to create art, and I'm okay if people don't like it, because it is something that I'm compelled to do. And I didn't take it personally, so I just put it out there, and I received so much good feedback from people from just letting go of those boundaries that I had. So then I started exploring and experimenting with colors, mediums, and just going with what I felt like. And out came just some wonderful stuff. So I gotten feedback from people how it uplifts, inspire, like with the yoga that I do also, it inspires people to see something differently, to divert attention, to maybe experience beauty through an image that may not look like anything, but it's something to them. Or it's the bird imagery with humans, and then maybe it brings something to them that is not in my control. You know, I produce the art and they appreciate it, and that's like a bonus gift for me, that it is appreciated by others. So yeah.
Now, I know you started drawing or producing art in Europe. Mm-hmm. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You're from Norway.
Norway.
When you first started, how did Norway, how is the fact that you're Norwegian, or the fact that you were in Norway when you really started to really produce your artwork, what type of effect did that, influence did that have on you? Or do you think this is all just internal, who you are? It didn't matter if you were in Norway or if you were in, you know.
I think Norway has had a huge impact on me, because we grow up in we are very respected as people in Norway. We are taken good care of, and we have abundance of beauty. We have the nature. We are very focused on the nature. So I spend a lot of time out in nature, and I gathered inspiration from nature. You know, there's a lot of magic in the Norwegian forests and the mountains and the sea, and I took all that in, I think, and that is part of what drives the internal, you know, creation of my artwork. You know, just the culture in Norway is so open, so accepting of art, and you're allowed to express yourself individually. And I was rewarded for that, because people enjoyed seeing somebody who dared to take a different path. And I think Norway has had a huge influence, and I don't think I would have been as brave being an artist in America if I hadn't had the solidity of upbringing in Norway.
Yeah, see, I was smiling while you were speaking, because the experience of artists over here is usually the reverse. Mm-hmm. I mean, now, maybe not so much since the 60s and the 70s as before, but a lot of artists, especially those that I sort of admire, when they travel over to Europe, they'll say, oh, I was free to do what I wanted to do without criticism. So, since you went the reverse path, since you've been here, what effect has that had on your art, or has it had no effect, it's just on maybe how it's received?
In Norway, we don't brag about ourselves. We don't put ourselves out there saying, hey, I'm a good artist, or I am an artist. It is for other people to make that judgment. So they see you doing art and they think you're good, they will elevate you to be you're an artist. You're so good, you're actually, you know, you have a craft, you have a skill, and we notice it. Here in America, when I came here, you can't just be quiet and wait for people to discover you. It's very different. You have to go out and promote yourself. And that is not something that came natural to me.
Yeah.
And still not. It's
Yeah.
the most awkward part of the whole process. I like to produce it, but then you have to go out and say, hey, I'm an awesome artist, come buy my work, you know.
Well, see, I had and this is why I'm always intrigued by someone like yourself who paints. I don't consider myself being a drawer. I think I'm an artist.
Yeah.
But I can't, I was never, as a child or ever, there was always somebody who could draw the horse better. Or
Yeah.
Back when I was a kid, we used to draw the Starship Enterprise and stuff like that, and I was never good at that. However, I saw a film in the 90s. It was Basquiat. Now, I was always a fan of Basquiat, but I watched this film that Julian Schnabel made. Mm-hmm. And I thought to myself, I can do that.
Yeah.
I mean, not that he was a fantastic artist, but I thought, what I can express myself that way. So I went out and I got these canvases and I got acrylics because I'll tell you how much I didn't know about paint.
Mm-hmm.
I got oil paint, and I was like, why won't this stuff dry?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that takes a while.
I mean, that's how much I didn't know. I was like, this stuff isn't drying. So anyway, I got acrylics, and I painted, and it was very, I said it was expressionist because I can't draw, and people did like it, and I sold some. Mm-hmm. But as soon as I tried to promote myself, this is why I'm telling this long story. I lived down the street from this art gallery, so one day I got the nerve to go down there with some of my paintings and see if they would put them in there on consignment. And this guy tore me up. I mean, he was just like...
Hurts.
Oh, my man. Well, see, he asked me about where did I study, who did I study under. He wanted all these credentials to come along with me. And I was like, I'm not asking you that. I'm just asking you to look at these and if you like to sell them or not. But, and I think it's a lot like that in the States.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you have an art degree, it weighs a lot more than just having talent. Mm-hmm. I think art, in my experience here, is driven by the money. And I feel in Europe it's more driven by heart. Mm-hmm. But maybe I am skewed in a way, I think, on that just because of my experience. But my art has to come from me. If it is motivated by money, I don't do that well. Mm-hmm. It doesn't. I mean, I get commissions or asked to do commissions, and I usually decline because as soon as that is on me, it's focused on I have to produce it in 2 weeks. It is for so much money. I have to meet an expectation, and it interrupts the flow of what I'm trying to produce because these days a lot of the artwork is a spiritual. It's oriented towards more spiritual, life and feelings and meaning. And the portraits that I do often come out having a lot more to them than just eyes and nose and ears. And so I'm commissioned often by people that want to have lost someone and want to capture their essence. And that is very hard to do on command for me. So instead of doing commissions, I say I will keep the image in mind and I will see if it happens. So for me, everybody seems to be okay with this process that I just don't do commissions because it interferes, but I do produce a lot of portraits and artwork for people that has that purpose of soothing a loss.
The artwork, your work that I'm familiar with are things I saw on your website, but also, when I first met you, mm-hmm. I think it was through the charity I used to sit on the board of We Will Survive Cancer, and you were gracious enough to donate some of your art to have at a silent auction and other things that we had. And the thing that struck me about your paintings are that they're quite sensual. There are bodies, they're not, well, they could be sexual, but they're sensual. Yeah. They're very, some of them are very intense, at least that's the way the effect it has on me. And I was wondering, have you found that in the United States, because from what I understand, we're quite prudish compared to Europeans, on how we deal with those types of things? We have a very, and I'm just saying this as a very proud American, we have a very repressive society when it comes to acknowledging the body and emotion. So have you had some different reactions to your artwork because of that, or did you see?
I have, and it's interesting you asked this question because a few years ago I had an exhibit in Norway. It was an erotic exhibit, very sensual. It was much more visually sexual than what I would produce here or exhibit here. But I was asked the question, I was interviewed by the papers. They said, so how is it to do this kind of art in America? And do you get judged? Do you get laughed at? Do you get accused of being a certain type of person? Or so yeah, we had some chuckles about that because I was on for an erotic exhibit in Norway with a pleasure festival that we have every summer. Then I come here and you ask me the same thing, and yes, I have to tone down a lot of my work that I show, and even Facebook will censor, a lot of the images if there is nudity, like even a nipple.
Yeah.
more male-oriented seems to fly better because I don't know, they don't report it that much, but I don't know why. But sensual art, erotic art is a really big part of what I like to do. It's still there. It's just right now I'm transferred into some more spiritual work that, yeah, I can show you some of it if you have. It's not on my website yet, some of it, but it is very different here to do an erotic piece. You get a lot of commentary, you get a lot of personal emails, there's a lot of assumptions that you are open to a dialogue that is different from, yeah. So there's a lot of inappropriate commentary in my experience here. While in Norway, it is more like, oh, people are curious. They will ask, well, what inspired this? Because they don't assume it is sex or sexually oriented, because the nudity, the bodies, you know, the vulnerability of being nude, whether it is a sexual, you know, image or just nudity in general, it shows so much more of the person, like the soul, your beard, what you're expressing is there, you know, it's true. And so it's the symbolism too, you know, to revealing the truth and not covering up or, you know, being fake or, yeah.
Yeah, well, I figured that might be the case. So I want to talk to you about color.
Yeah.
When you choose your colors, tell me about that whole process. You know, it sounds like you work very, I won't say impulsively, but instinctively.
Instinctively, that's a good word, yeah.
So is it something that right at the moment you decide to use a color, or do you say, I'm going to paint a picture that's these particular shades?
It comes, yeah, I have usually a mindset. Like I will go to my art room or my studio and I know I'm going for the blues. So, or I know I'm going for just pencil or charcoal. So yes, the color scheme is usually there in mind, but right now I immerse myself in color. There's so many colors in my artwork because there's so much I want to express with each piece. But I usually have like a base. I come there and I say, I'm going to pick up the blue and I'm going to chalk all over the paper, and then I spread it out and I add other things, and then I start detailing around it. So colors, I think, are huge for me right now. But after that phase, I'll probably go back to just pencils for a while and do more simplistic, more erotic, more body-oriented.
So you mainly work right now in pencils and chalk?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Now, did you ever, because I think the pieces that I saw
oil paintings.
Were oil paintings.
Yeah.
Is that an evolution there, or is it just you choose whatever you feel? Tell me how that's working. Do you think you're going to go back to oil sometime?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. It cycles back in.
Okay.
Pencil cycles back in, and then it cycles through, like, whatever I have available, sort of. I have used things that are not even art supplies to make art with at times, but...
Yeah. Yeah.
But, it really started off with oil, like you. Real artists that paint with oil.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And that's what I thought. I'd start out with the real stuff.
What a mess.
Yeah. I had no idea what I was getting into.
No, so I started off, I wasn't good at it, and I got frustrated, so I went with something simpler. Pencil. And then I got more brave, and I started exploring with color more, and then oil, and then it just exploded. The oil, I figured it out, you know. You smear, you blend, you can dot on top of it, you texture it, and it just, I fitted all the pieces together and I got it right. So now I love oil paint. It's just, when you bring out the oils, you're committed for a while.
Yeah.
Because...
Now, how long does it take to dry? I mean, you know, you've done the piece. When is it?
Yeah, if you use turpentine, which I don't,
okay.
I use oils to thin the paint with. Turpentine will help it dry faster, so it could be a week if you're a very thin layer, but
of course, I was putting big gobs of the stuff
me too,
on.
like you put it on it like, you know?
Yeah, and that's why I liked acrylic, because you could do that. It didn't mix as well.
Yeah.
But you could put a big bunch of texture on it, and it would dry.
Yeah, acrylic does. Oils I like that they dry slow just because you can go to sleep, go back the next day or 2 days, and you can still blend a little. You can still work with it. So I really like oils. I mean, I look like I am an oil painting myself when I do it because I get all involved. My hands are involved and ends up in my hair, you know, my clothes. So yeah, every once in a while I am the absent-minded artist out and about with.
Hey, I wanted to take a moment to invite you to check out my website, The Faces of Bethesda and Chevy Chase. It's a blog where I write about people who live, work, and interact primarily within the communities of Bethesda and Chevy Chase, but really all over the DMV. In my 19 years as a realtor, I've met some of the most interesting people that I could ever imagine, and I'd like for you to meet them too. So please go to thefacesofbethesdaandchevychase.com or thefacesofbcc.com. Also follow me on Instagram at Howard Fletcher Realtor, or go to my Facebook pages, Howard Fletcher, which is Fletch Lives Too, or Howard Fletcher Realtor. There you'll find great information about real estate in the DMV, learn more about the guests on my show, and also get some more information about some of the wineries and breweries that have been on my show and that I've visited. Also, always check my show notes. I always will have links to good information and definitely information about my guests. And so with that, let's get back to the show. I want to talk about the yoga again. Mm-hmm. Now, how long have you been doing yoga?
It's been
practicing
about 4 years. I sat down.
Yeah.
Had a very bad back, and
nothing before then.
Nothing at all.
Okay.
So I was very stiff, you know, but it was either that or being sent to a pain specialist for back issues, and I just wasn't looking forward to that kind of, you know, trail. So I just sat down, started stretching 4 years ago, and it has opened up so much. I mean, it's tied into my artwork because it opened up that portal to that inner exploration and the world that you have in there that we so often shut down because we're so busy in our lives. And so I do yoga and I flow right into my artwork. I do artwork, I flow right back into my yoga, and they just go back and forth, hand in hand.
You were friends on a couple of social media, and you know you have posted your posing. Tell me if I get the jargon wrong, because I know very little about yoga. But you have, I mean, I have to say, you're quite impressive to me. I mean, you definitely, seems like every so often, you're putting your body in some position that it probably shouldn't be. but you're doing it quite well, and I'm like, wow, that's fantastic. It's really impressive. Has it helped you to, you've shared how it helped you get in touch emotionally with yourself and with your artistic self. But do you think you better understand the body and the physiology and in your drawing of it?
Very much. Yes, the anatomy, you become intimately acquainted with it when you work your body as intensely as I do with yoga. Because every little part of your body with yoga, it matters, like the tension on tendons and joints and everything. So I've noticed I've taken, from my yoga into my artwork, I've taken a more, what was the word? Not abstract, but almost contorted a little bit. Like a woman's body can just go extremely in one direction, and you know that it's not normal to bend that way, but in the artwork it expresses something. It's like a release or a surrender, or so yes, it has really helped me blend, you know, myself as a body and a human with the body I portray in my artwork. And I have never taken a yoga class, so this is also internally driven.
Get out of here.
I've never gone to art school. This is all internally driven.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, you seem very much of a natural. I'm not surprised so much about the art because you seem very talented that way.
Thank you.
But I always thought, I mean, again, untrained eye, I don't know, but I know. I mean, because some of the things you're doing, I mean, I would imagine you look at poses and say, I strive to do that. You work toward doing those particular poses.
Yeah.
But wow, that's That's crazy. Okay, well, there's hope for me yet then.
There is hope. Well, you're athletic. You're athletic, right?
Yeah, but I am about as I think I've told you one time, as flexible as a saltine. I am just not. Even when I ran track in high school, I was not. I didn't stretch very well, and I never really was a priority of mine. And as a result, my muscles are very short.
Atrophied.
Yeah. They're very like my body. They're very, very short. So, and I've worked on my stretching more the older I've gotten, going to the gym, nothing close to what you do or what people who practice yoga do. My girlfriend is into yoga and she is very flexible as well. I've always thought, when I say there's hope for me, I'm not good in groups. I'm just not.
Me neither.
I mean, I'm a gym rat, but I spin class. I like the spin bike, but I'm not. You put me in a spin class, I'm just not digging it. I'm not into that. So it's kind of that gives me hope that I have the ability to maybe do this on my own if I put my mind to it.
I really like being alone. I don't like groups either.
Yeah,
it's why I haven't taken a yoga class.
Yeah,
but I was an athlete when I was younger. I was a swimmer, so I got used to training and body awareness, how far I can push. So I guess that did help with knowing how far to push with yoga. Well,
you do. You have a body that's built for yoga, meaning that you're quite tall, you're very long and lanky. So I'm talking myself out of it now. See, I'm saying because that's everything I'm not. So I'm like, okay.
You're better off with yoga. You have way shorter to fall. I mean,
I
fall from the top of my hands.
Yeah, I do see all the balance that you do. That's quite super impressive. And I do need help doing that because I have never been good at balance sports such as skating, all the Norwegian sports, skating, skiing, all of that. Well, surfing, that's not a Norwegian sport necessarily, but surfing, I'm skateboarding. I'm terrible at all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. But yoga would help me, I guess.
Yeah, it would probably help you a lot.
Yeah.
But inversions, it is hard to do. I still need to have a support when I do inversions because I don't know if I'm going to have a good balance day or not. I am not good with balance, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. I can stand up straight and just wobble like I'm drunk or something. So that is one of the reasons I started yoga on top of my back issues was to get better at balance. Use support. If your girlfriend likes to do yoga, she can be a spotter for you if you want to. But you don't start off with handstands. You start off with stretching and getting used to being calm in yourself. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
Sit and breathe for 5 minutes.
I was thinking, is it good for couples? Might not be good for couples.
Well, Chris and I do some.
Okay.
It is good. He's more self-conscious about it.
Yeah, sounds like me.
Mm-hmm.
Does he get frustrated?
Yeah, I mean a little bit, but not.
Yeah.
He just feels like he isn't as good as me, so he feels like you should know something. And let's stretch. We're not doing yoga. We just stretch.
Yeah. Well, you're very. I will say this. Now that you've told me that, is the other reason why I'm very surprised to hear that you haven't taken a class or don't have a yogi or anything is because you post what you're doing on social media, which is it's like asking for criticism.
I am, yeah.
but and so I mean I would imagine from what I can see it seems pretty well received. So you're quite good.
Since starting yoga, people respect the effort in yoga.
Yeah,
so even though you are in yoga attire, which you will learn when you start yoga, having baggy clothing, it's a hazard. Because I gotten stuck in harem pants, my foot and I couldn't get loose and I crashed, So there's a reason that the clothing is kind of skimpy. Mm-hmm. I knew I put myself out there too. Okay, oh my gosh, you're 40 some years old and you're gonna show yourself. But I haven't really received a lot of criticism.
I was thinking more along the lines of, you're doing that wrong, like your pose is incorrect.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you get that?
Yeah, I get it from some people, but
okay.
They're usually those that don't, what is yoga?
Right.
A lot of people think yoga is a set of asanas or poses where you have to work through and do this and that and you get fit, you get a yoga body. But yoga is really more about the internal journey and you loosen up your joints and you allow energy to flow more freely in the body. And it isn't really about the technique or how far you can arch or how high you can stand up. It's more what are you getting out of it? So when I met with criticism, like, oh, you need to have your hips higher up and stuff, it's like, I can't do that right now because my body isn't flexible enough, but it is helping me in this way. You know, I don't feel it personally because I respect that this person may have a whole different idea of what yoga is to him or her.
Right.
And so there is criticism, but most of the time I get the feedback of, thank you for inspiring me. Thank you for putting it out there and letting me know that it isn't over at 40, you know? We can still go and do things and get strong and fit, and even though we go through hardships.
Yeah, well, 40 is way in the rear view for me, but I will, it is very inspirational to see you doing that, and I just might one day get on top of one of those wobbly balls and put my leg up in the air. But
is it weird? I balance better on the balance ball than on the floor.
yeah. Well, no, but it's quite impressive. We've talked about your art and we've talked about the yoga, but you are a psychologist, is that correct?
I am a psychologist, yes.
So how does that work into all this mix?
Well, I got educated in England, and while I was still having kids, so I didn't get started until a few years later, and I started as an independent coach, life coach, because I didn't want to be didn't want to be involved in family therapy, more like motivated individuals who want to grow. So I was working as a life coach for quite a few years, and I still work as one. I just haven't taken on new clients because I had personal circumstances that sort of interrupted that flow, and I took a break. But I'm looking now that I've established my yoga and my artwork is flowing, that I want to take my direction in psychology towards a more spiritual life approach, and where we can go in deeper and use the tools of creativity, art, movement as a way of helping people find their truth or what they want to do with their life. And because the spiritual part of my life has grown a lot, I tap into so much of the things, life growth and the things that we learn and just what is beyond, and I know I'm good with people talking about these things. I understand loss. I understand how it is to have your life abrupted. I understand sickness. I understand just a lot of the things that come with devastating life events. And I would like to work with people who actually want to see more of themselves and become more and love themselves to such an extent that they can grow fully into the bloom they're supposed to be in this life. Yeah.
Wow. That sounds beautiful.
Thank you.
I could use some of that myself. So tell the audience how they can get in touch with you in any way. If they want to, or if they're interested in your artwork, where can they find your artwork? And also, if you want to take on other clients, how can they get in touch with you? And I will put all this in the show notes as well. But
okay. I have a website for my artwork, artbymarat.com. It is linked to a website that can do prints and mugs with images, everything, including original art, which I will then, it will go between the person that's buying it and me if it is original art, but everything else gets processed through my website, Art by Marat, and my email is also artbymarat@gmail.com. Coach Marat is to reach me for coaching and psychology work. I also have a Facebook page for my artwork that is also called Art by Marat, and Coach for Life is my coaching page on Facebook. The Coach for Life site is going to change name at some point, but I haven't decided what yet, because I want it to reflect more the artistic, the movement, and the spiritual, a little more.
Well, I'd like to encourage everyone to go to Art by Marat and look at her work, because it's I think it's very distinctive, and I certainly like it, and I think you will too. So I want to thank you, Marat, for being on the show. Like I said, when I first thought about starting to interview artists and other people, that you came to mind. And every time I see you, putting your body in some type of contorted position. I was like, I need to call her. So thank you for agreeing to come on. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
It is an honor to be here.
Okay, great.
I'm glad you thought about me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So, there you have it. That's my conversation with artist, yoga enthusiast, psychologist, and all-around cool person, Marat Essex. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. And, maybe she's right. With Joan's help, I might just be able to touch my head to my knee. No. I would like to thank Marat for coming down to my office in Park Potomac to record this episode. If you want to contact Marat, please go to her website, Art by Marat, that's ARTBYMARAT.com, or her Facebook page, which is also Art by Marat. Links will also be in the show notes, so you'll be able to contact her. While my ego would like to call this thing a one-man show, there are several people that I'd like to thank, because without them, this little project would not be a reality. Thank you to all my colleagues at Caldwell Banker Residential Brokerage, at the Park Potomac office. They were as quiet as they could be while we recorded this episode. You might have heard them in the background a little bit. It was a busy day. I really appreciate it. All the music in this episode, my theme music, Tasty Freeze, and all the transitions were recorded and performed by Cadillac Grip. If you're ever in the Boulder or Denver, Colorado area, go see Cadillac Grip play. Because if you ain't hip to the grip, you just ain't hip. If you like what you heard, please give me a 5-star rating on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. It helps the show grow, and really that's the name of the game here. Tell your friends, and once again, please, if you're listening, subscribe, and rate it. Go do it. Thank you to my partner and editor for life, Joan Zimmerman, aka the Notorious Jay-Z. And I must thank my mother, and of course, Jack, the Black Pug. The Real Estate Wine and More podcast was written, recorded, mixed, produced, and screwed up again by me. I'm Howard Fletcher. I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
So they can experience and see beauty in places they don't expect. In a contorted view of a woman, an image of a woman, it can still be really beautiful because she has been broken, but she's still blooming. Mm-hmm. And that is powerful.
I like to party, y'all. And when I do, see, I drinks that 800 to get high now. And I smokes that wacky weed.